All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of UX Pathways. And I have the honor of being joined today by Meryl K. Evans. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you, Mark?
So far, so good. Excited to talk to you. I know I've seen you speak in the past, and you have done so much for this industry. I'd love for everyone to understand what is your current role in the industry?
I am a speaker and I do training and workshops. My specialty area is accessibility and disability inclusion. I tend to focus more on digital accessibility because that is probably the least talked about in terms of accessibility because people have been thinking about building they have different requirements, but we need to talk about digital accessibility because our work every day involves digital. Everything digitalized every day and everywhere. So everybody has their hand into the digital world and they don't realize that it's their job to help with accessibility.
There's so much there to unpack, Meryl, that I think hits home to me because you're right. There's so much planning that goes involved in creating, I guess, digital platforms, and accessibility is one of those things that seems to be left either last or someone thinks about it, maybe we should do that. And I did see one of your recent uh, presentations where you said it's more about progress than perfection. And I think that stuck to a lot of the listening audience. How did you get into this whole industry? Was it something, did you just want to make an improvement to an application? Is that how it started?
So, for the most part, I was born into disability advocacy, being born profoundly deaf, and I've always advocated for something at some point or another in my whole life. But when I really got into digital accessibility, uh, early in the 2000s, I was involved with web design and that kind of thing, and I learned a little bit about digital accessibility, not as much as now, but it was always in my mind. But when it really became more of my career, my profession, was in 2019. Actually, it started before that when I started making videos about marketing because that's what I do. I'm in marketing and communication. But for the first time in my life, instead of being the viewer of closed caption, I was creating them. So that just opened the door and helped me understand that there are caption and best practices for a reason and why all these years I've never noticed them because good captions are not noticeable. It's the bad ones that are. So that led to me creating videos about why closed captioning best practices matter, what they are, and of course, you can never make everybody happy because there's no such thing as 100% accessible. And a perfect example of that is dark and light mode. Some people prefer dark, some people prefer light. And when you're creating a presentation, they don't have a choice. They're stuck with whatever you created. So you can't do dark or light mode. There's no way. So that's a very simple example of how that happened. So anyway, that a conference, an accessibility conference, saw my video and invited me to speak. And it just snowballed from there. And that's really when I got into it because I've always been comfortable with public speaking, but I never have an accent. And it's not a British accent, not a French accent. It's the accent from where you can't travel. You can't travel for that. I was born with it because it was a deaf accent. And I didn't know if people would be comfortable with it. So getting these invitations showed me people were okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, you've made a huge mark on the subject matter, and it's inspiring. And I think one of the things that we get a lot, and I know you probably receive a lot of questions on, is okay, so you talked about the bad captions. How do I make a positive user experience? What have you done in your career to make sure there's a positive user experience for end users?
I just keep educating. I post a lot, especially on LinkedIn. I mention examples in my talk because examples really drive the point home. I'm not the kind of person who deals with theory because theory just does not make things real. I like practical. I like examples. I like what people. So that's what I try to do is show them. And one of my favorite examples that I shared was a forum, and I said, "What is wrong with this forum that and deaf people will probably notice first?" And so what the problem was, it required a phone number. That's it. You could not say if it was a text number, you can call me or that kind of thing. And some of my friends in Rotterdam were like blown away. They never thought about that. So always offer communication options. So that's the big thing that I talk about. That's what my TEDx talk was about, is to be open to communicating in other ways. We can't just rely on the default 100% of the time. Just be ready with the backup. And we all have a phone now, which can be our backup. And you can use your phone however you want. You can type on it, or you can use the voice to text if you don't like to type or you can't type. So that's the amazing thing. And then, of course, I educate people on captioning best practices and easy ways for non-technical people to make their content more accessible so it's viewed by more people because of the curb cut effect. Everybody benefits from accessibility. I mean, the curb cut is based on the ramp at street corners to help wheelchairs cross the street safely. But we all use it. Caregivers use it with wheelchairs or strollers. Travelers use it with those suitcases. So that's an example. But of course, even though everyone uses accessibility, we must rely, when it comes to user experience, testing, feedback, you must go to the people with disabilities for that. Not just anybody who loves captions. You need to go to the people who depend on captions because they would be lost without it. The people who just love captions and find it makes it a better experience can't tell you truly what's missing from the experience.
That's a great point. I mean, there's so many points you had in there, but that default and knowing that you just can't go with what is there already. You're going to have to do some extra work to make sure that you're having the largest spectrum of experience that everyone can benefit from. And there's so many things in there, and it seems like it's commonly missed. Is there some theory you have why it's just always left? Is it more of a education point? Is that generally the reason why people just don't understand it's so important?
Absolutely, it's the lack of education because the stuff is not taught in school or universities. And it should be. It needs to be part of the curriculum. I mean, when you learn how to write, you don't just write and turn in your paper. You learn about editing. You learn about grammar. You learn about syntax. You learn about all that. Well, accessibility is just like that. So when you create a video, you need to think about captions. You need to think about audio description. You need to think about color to make sure any content you have on the screen it can be seen. Nowadays, I've been noticing a lot lately on TV. I've been watching some TV shows, and they will show you text messages or they'll put up a box with information. A lot of those I can barely see, and I don't have a vision disability. I'm nearsighted, but that's it. And even when I go up to the closer to the TV, it's very hard to read because the contrast is not there. Oh my goodness, I'm getting off track here from your original question. Yeah.
No, no, I think you're on it. What's interesting though is so we talked about you're looking at some examples. So you're looking at good examples, bad examples. Why do you think creating like a positive user experience is so challenging? Is it because of the time and effort? Is it, we mentioned education, but why is it so challenging to create a positive user experience?
It shouldn't be because it's really easy. But again, I think it goes to education. And we have to remember people are overwhelmed. They have so much going on. So if you think of in terms of a web developer, they have all these bugs to work out. And we know how fixing a bug can create another bug. So we have to think about that. It's just a lot. And to think about accessibility just doesn't come to their mind because it's not something they live with every day, like people like me. So that's what we need to do. We need to make accessibility part of the whole, part of the picture. Just like when you're writing, you're editing your papers and stuff. Yeah, yeah, we have to make that. It's gonna take time to make change because it's after the fact. So when you have to learn something and go back, it takes longer than if you just learn it in the first place. If you just make accessibility part of the product in the first place. Perfect example is there was a video platform like the one we're using to talk to each other that they didn't have caption originally. I mean, and the company had been around a while. And then when they were forced to add caption because of the pandemic, it was a very fuzzy, very clunky solution in how you turn on the caption. And even today, there's one step everybody must do before the caption will work. And a lot of people still haven't done that one step on their own Zoom account. So yeah, that's just an example of how retrofitting accessibility causes problems.
Yeah, it's a good example because you do, once again, there goes your default example. You have to go into your video settings to turn that on because you're trying to communicate at a stronger level. But like, I think the key thing that I heard was if you wait, you've kind of got to go back. So if you just build it into your process, it's just going to make it easier going forward and everyone will benefit. And I'm thinking about those that are like, should I get into user experience? I don't know where to go. I've heard there's so many ways. Accessibility, I heard that's one route. What advice would you give to people that are looking to being advocates for end users?
Everybody plays the role, even the customer. The customer can say, well, I was watching your video, there's no caption. They can report the caption. A customer can go into a public bathroom and see the accessible bathroom is full of junk because they use it as a storage space instead of right. So they can report that because that's going to be a problem for somebody who uses assistive technology because it will get in the way of the technology or whatever they're using to move around. So everyone can have a say. And whatever your job is, whether it's human resources, procurement, you have a job too. And you can make your little part of the world accessible by thinking about the things that impact your role. So it will be more accessible to others.
Yeah, great advice. I mean, Meryl, you've said so many things today that just make so much sense. However, there's always, as you said, that factor of learning. And that's really going to just propel this industry forward. And I appreciate you sharing your thoughts today. If anyone wants to learn more about what you're doing or get a hold of you, where should they go?
Mail.net is probably the easiest thing, my website. And the one advice I would give is sometimes accessibility is daunting for people who don't think about it, they don't live it. That's why I talk about progress over perfection a lot, because it helps ease it ease the thing so they can get started. So don't worry about trying to do all 10 things. Just start with one thing. And it I love to do that. I love checking them off. And I get a kick every time I get to check it off. So when you've done one thing and you've checked it off, then you can learn the next thing. So it become make it a game, challenge yourself to learn one new thing, make it a habit, then learn the next thing.
So make accessibility fun, which can help move things forward because now you're making incremental steps forward, which will then lead to a better experience. And if you merge it into your process, then it'll just become routine.
Exactly. So, and if you have people with disabilities in your company, which you should, you need to work with them, involve them. I mean, don't make it, you have to be careful. Whatever the regular job is, you don't want to add more work onto their plate. But if it's part of their work, that's different. So, companies need to be hiring people with disabilities and taking advantage of their knowledge and creativity because they can really propel a company's accessibility forward if they're involved.
Well, Meryl, keep up the good work. It was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.